Alrighty guys, welcome back to another one. In today's video, we're going to be playing with some black powder a little bit in 12 gauge. Now, what we're doing specifically is sort of a blend of an old school and a modern load. We are using a plastic wad, however, we're just using the shot cut from it. We're getting rid of the crush section and the gas piston, yep, just using the shot cup. To seal the powder, we're of course using a maxi nitro card. You could also use a regular nitro card. I don't advise using plastic gas seals, namely, well, one, because they take up a little bit more space than these do, and two, they do have a tendency to melt inside of barrels. We haven't really had that happen to us, not that I can remember anyway, but from what people tell me, it's a legit problem, although again, we have not experienced it. But yeah guys, some black powder 12 gauge. This is going to be a Pheasant style load. Alright, so the components we're using is a once fired Federal gold medal grand paper hull. I actually forgot what it was for a second, but yeah, these are paper hulls. Federal gold medal grands. You can see right there, yep, they are paper, really cool. I ain't got a lot of these, I think 20 left, but I do like them a lot. I do have some paper 20 gauge shells. They are actually Shadite's brand new primed. We're going back with a Shadite primer. This is the CX2000, although you could use whatever primer you want here. Literally, whatever primer you have will work. Federal actually does make muzzle loading primers specifically for black powder firearms. I think they're intended for use in inline muzzle loaders, but they do work in shot shells too. I've used them a lot. I actually show you what the box looks like. I have a box of them right here. It's got one primer left in it, but that's okay. I have a couple more. I got these back when you cannot find 209 primers anywhere. I got these just to load some, well, Pyrex with. I wanted to try some Pyrex in some shotgun shells, and it works pretty good too. But that's what I got these for. We're using a 1/8 inch felt wad. This is from Precision Reloading. Actually, the shot we're using is also from Precision Reloading. I got this copper plated number 4. Some really good shot. I'll explain why we're using number 4 here in a minute, but to some of you guys it's probably obvious why. That's the components. You can add buffer to this if you want to. It's not gonna really matter with the pressure, because again, it is black powder. The pressures are so low, adding buffer is not going to hurt it at all. It can only help it. I do have some Goex. This is 3F, and I believe it's an older can of it. I'm actually not using this today. And no, I'm not using Pyrex, although I have nothing against Pyrex. I love that stuff. But I'm using my homemade black powder. This is the first batch I ever made. This is made with oak, which is a terrible choice for black powder, but it does work. Yep, this is the standard 75-15-10 ratio, tumbled in a Harbor Freight rock tumbler with lead 690 round balls for 2 days, and then granulated. It is not pressed or compressed corned. It's not that. It's just sifted through a mesh strainer, and well, this powder is not as dense as legit black powder is, but that's okay. Whenever I use this stuff, I weigh it by weight instead of using a volumetric measure. Yeah, because this stuff is less dense than real black powder, not real black powder, but store-bought black powder, you do have to use a little bit more. That's why I weigh it. If you don't know, you could take a volumetric measure and weigh out, say, 60 grains of this Goex right here, drop it on your scale for grains, obviously have it zeroed out, and you would get roughly 60 grains. That volumetric measure is about equal to what the actual weight is. 60 grains is 60 grains both ways, generally speaking. This stuff comes in about 15 to 18 grains lighter than Goex or any other store-bought black powder. To make that short, if you're making your own black powder, weigh it on the scale, whatever charge you're going for, weigh it. Don't use the measure. You will not get the velocity you need. I'm just trying to use this stuff up, guys. It's not a very good batch of black powder. I'm now using Eastern Red Cedar pet bedding, and it's a lot faster. The oak is just not good for black powder. But anyway, let's get started here. We're using a, obviously, 12 gauge Lee resize ring. I'll actually remember to put the primer in here before I kick the ring off. I'll always forget to do that, but yep. Deprimed and resized, and yes, these were loaded with smokeless powder from the factory. These right here, yeah, not black powder, but still paper haul. Very cool. The reason I started making black powder was because, well, during COVID, you cannot find black powder anywhere, or any other smokeless powder for that matter. Anything really. So I started getting Pyrex, and I was using that for a little while, and well, sometimes you would forget to clean your gun for a day or two, and guys, let me tell you, this stuff right here, if you forget to clean your gun for a few days, this will leave a white chalky residue inside your barrel. It's green sometimes. It's really hard to clean out. With real black powder, people were telling me that it's a lot easier to clean up, and yes, it's true. Real black powder is a lot easier to clean up than Pyrex or most substitutes. I haven't tried a lot of substitutes, but this is my go-to when I use substitutes. Yeah, you can actually leave black powder. You can go out and shoot your gun and not clean it for a few days. I don't advise doing that, but if you do by accident, then you really ain't got much to worry about. It doesn't tend, in my experience, to rust the barrel up at all. Or if it does, it's such a little amount, it doesn't really matter. This stuff is very bad in terms of corrosion. It's horrible. So anyway, I'm using 90 grains of my powder here, and again, that is weighed on the scale, not in a measure. This is roughly 2F. I have 71 grains. It should be 92. We'll run with 92. If you guys have never done this, put vanilla extract in your cherry Coke. It makes cherry vanilla Coke, and that stuff's really hard to find, especially in zero sugar. Just throwing that out there. Zero sugar, cherry vanilla Coke, it's good stuff. Also, word of advice, don't ever have liquids around your reloading components. Very bad idea. Next, we need a 12 gauge nitro card. This is the Maxi nitro card. This one is 70 thou. Go ahead and get that on top of the powder. Now, what I do here is take it over to my press, and I use the primary seating punch to compress it. You don't need a whole lot of compression, but some. Line up, there we go. About like that. We have quite a bit of room left in here, actually. Next, we need the 1/8 inch felt wad. Now, you don't absolutely need any cushion wad with black powder. However, you really should use it because it'll help with shot deformation. The rounder your shot, the better it'll pattern. Cushion does help, even with black powder. That being said, if you want to skip the cushion, I would use at least one more nitro card, just because. But we are, once again, using the shot cup from any target style wad. This is the Winchester WAA-12R. This holds 1 1/8 ounces of lead in the shot cup. We're going for a 1 1/4 ounce load, or maybe slightly more, depending on stack height. Go ahead and cut that off. Drop that inside there. And you can see, hopefully, well, maybe not, but we have enough room for what looks to be a 1.3 ounce load, somewhere in between 1 1/4 and 1 3/8 ounces. Okay, so we're finally at the shot. Once again, this is copper plated number 4 shot from Precision Reloading, and the reason why I want to use the large shot like number 4, if it was a smokeless load, number 6 is fine, 7, 7.5 is fine for pheasants. However, with black powder, you're not really going to get the same speeds you would get out of normal pheasant loads, around 1300 to 1400 FPS. Yeah, you're just not going to get that. So, what I've come up with here, in my own brain anyway, is using larger shot to compensate for the lesser velocity to get roughly the same pellet energy. This should be running about 1150 FPS, so hopefully that number 4 shot will still have the energy at 30-35 yards to drop a pheasant. Now number 4 shot does take up more room than say 7.5 or 8 shot will, so if you stick 7.5s in here, you can probably get close to maybe a 1/10 ounce more than the number 4s will allow. Don't really know. There's 1.3 ounces, and it looks like that is the right height for the crimp. Now with paper hulls, I've noticed that you need a little bit more space under the crimp than you do a plastic shell, probably just due to how thick the hull material is. I don't know, but we can go ahead and crimp that. Again, if you want to add buffer, throw you some buffer in. That can only help with the patterns, it won't hurt it. And it is black powder, so you're not going to run into any pressure problems. Well guys, here's the end result. That hole in the middle is so small that I don't think a number 9 pellet would even come out of that. It's really small. It looks worse than it is because it's a little bit charred. This is a paper hull. Really nice. The one you've seen sitting back here is loaded with 7.5 shot, 100 grains. This is a 1.3 ounce load. So there's how I blend the old school and the modern. Use a plastic shot cup with black powder. Just separate the two with a nitro card and some felt. That's all you gotta do. You can totally use plastic shot cups with black powder. Here's a little fact for you. The first shell that me and Josh ever reloaded was sitting at his kitchen table, and all we had laying around was Pyrex. This was probably 2016, 2017, a few years ago. And yeah, we decided to load up some shot shells with Pyrex and whatever kind of lead he had laying around. I think it was 27 cal buckshot, number 2 buck. And I think I broke down a few shells to get the bird shot out of it. But that's what we were doing for a little while, a few shells here and there, and one day I decided to start loading for 16 gauge. And once I started loading for 16 gauge, it all kind of spiraled from there. I'm now loading for 8 different gauges. Actually, if you guys want to hear how I got into reloading, me and Josh both, just let us know in the comments and we'll do that. So takeaways from this video: always clean your guns after shooting black powder, especially Pyrex. Do not wait a few days like I've done a few times. It becomes pretty hard to clean up. With black powder, it's not so much of a problem, but still, clean your guns. If you're using guns with interchangeable choke tubes, make sure you take out that choke tube and clean it really good and oil it before reinserting it. If you make your own black powder and you're not corning it, which is compressing it with a several ton press into hard pucks and then granulating it, you need to weigh your powder out on a scale. And as always, keep your powder dry. Don't have any liquids near your loading components, especially if it's black powder. But anyway guys, I think that's going to do it for me. Please like and subscribe. We always appreciate that. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below and we'll get back to you. And if you want to, go check out our Patreon. It's as low as $1 a month. You guys get early access to content. A link to that, as well as a link to our Instagram and Rumble accounts, will be in the description below. But other than that, you guys take it easy, and we'll see you in the next one.